Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Greetings everyone. We've got quite a number of participants from all over the globe actually. Just looking at the alphabetical order, we've got Prof. Elia, thank you very much, from Cairo. And we've got Prof. Ranjit from Bahrain. And we have also from Thailand. And of course, we have our keynote speaker from Venice, Italy. Yeah, thank you very much. Most of the audience are actually participants from our just concluded conference, the hybrid conference, our first hybrid conference. We expected challenges, and since it was the first hybrid, we expect challenges, and true enough, there were lots of challenges we faced, and we managed to let all the presenters present the papers, except for the keynote speaker because of the time constraint, and she has a previous engagement, so we have to reschedule her presentation to this post conference. Anyway, I think with the pandemic, I think the norm for our conference would be the keynote speaker will be speaking at the post conference, meaning a week after the after the actual conference, because we never know the technical issues that would arise, and it would actually put constraint on the speakers, keynote speaker's time. So from now, our keynote speaker will be addressing during our post conference, which means a week later. And hello, Maria.
Hello.
All right. Nice to see you again after 1 year. Yeah, 1 year.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. I would like to relate to the audience that I met Maria in Venice about a year or so. Yeah. And a few weeks after returning from Venice, Italy was in full lockdown. And so it looks like things are not receding now. How is it in Venice? Is it how's the situation? How's the situation in Venice?
We are still in lockdown, not still full, but still in lockdown.
Is it recovering? I mean, is it improving, or is it stagnant? Or?
Yeah, it's very slowly improving. We are now trying to vaccine the most of the people, but up to now, there are just 1 million people that received the vaccine, and we are 60 million. So,
right, okay,
a lot of to do.
Well, I think we have to reschedule our conference in Venice to next year, because I don't think it is, it's going to improve in June, July. It's just impossible, because our country as well still has not opened up the borders. Yeah, so we have to reschedule Venice in 2022. And right, just a brief introduction about our keynote speaker, Professor Maria Chiara Tosse. He's a full professor in urban design at IUF, University of Venice, where she's also the scientific coordinator of the PhD in urbanism and head of the research cluster City Lab. And she received her PhD in urbanism from the University La Sapienza of Rome in 1996. In 1994 to 1995, she has been a visiting researcher at the College of Environmental Design at the University of California at Berkeley. Now, going through her brief CV, I think she must be a very super lady, actually. Yeah, because apart from involved in her research on evolution of urban settlements and also on climate crisis, she's also coordinator of the project under the European Commission. Yeah, and she's also the editorial board member of the Journal of Architecture and Urbanism and the e-Journal of Urban and Landscape Planning. On top of that, she also has co-curated several expositions in particular in China, and of course in Venice. And at the same time, she also co-chair with Wang Lan from the Tongji University, China, at a conference. And she's also a guest editor of a special issue, Healthy Urban, in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health. I do not know how she has time to do all that. And to top it up, she has more than 100 publications since 1990. Over to you, Professor Maria.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation. Can I share my screen?
Yes, please do.
So can you see it?
Yes. Right, you may start
now.
Yeah.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. And thank you very much to Professor Yusuf for the very kind invitation to this very important international conference. And it's really an honor for me to be here today for sharing my reflection on welfare spaces with all of you. Okay, as you have understood, I'm an urban designer, so I look at welfare from a spatial point of view, from the character that the city has in relation to welfare and well-being of people. So my speech today is organized in 3 parts. The first one is dedicated to explain why it's relevant to me studying welfare space. The second one is to reflect on welfare space in a specific territory, the Venice metropolitan area, an area in which the dispersion of settlements are the most important character. So we can, in a broad sense, speak of the metropolitan area of Venice as a suburban space, even if it has a very specific character. And the third one, in which I will present some reflections, some conclusions on the topic. So why welfare space? Let me start this presentation with quoting Edward Soja, an American geographer of the School of Los Angeles, that 10 years ago in his book, The City and Spatial Justice, posed a question: why spatial and why now? And he argued that whatever your interest may be, they can be significantly advanced by adapting a critical spatial perspective. So the spatial character has a very important lens through which reading a phenomenon. And he recognized a significantly change in the thinking about space from emphasizing flat cartographic notions of space as a container, as a depository of human activity, toward an active force shaping human life. And he also pointed out this special turn. In fact, he spoke about a special turn as the primary reason for the attention that started being given to the concept of spatial justice and to the broader specialization of the basic idea of democracy and human right. as in the revival of Lefebvre's notion of the right to the city. So it's under, let me say, this special turn that I also, more than 10 years ago, I also started looking at the physical dimension of the spatial dimension of welfare policies. So what I call welfare space. So going back to 2012, when European Union received the Nobel Peace Prize. As you probably know, the Nobel Peace Prize is really very important. And that year was European Union that received this prize. And commenting this event, Jürgen Habermas, one of the most important Western philosophers, pointed out how, along with the merit of having achieved peace after repeated fratricidal wars, and of having developed the constitutive strength of democracy, the Swedish committee, so the committee of the Nobel Peace Prize, wanted to reward the third great feat of Europe, its social model based on welfare state. So Europe have received in such a way the Nobel Peace Prize also for its social model, welfare state. So my speech deal in fact with the relationship between welfare policies. Welfare policies, as you probably know, means education, means health care, means housing, social housing. So the relationship between welfare policies and the city, the way in which the complex set of action designed to ensure greater well-being to different populations influence the building of the city, depositing facilities and spaces, a sort of infrastructure for society, for the society. And conversely, how the city and its spatial articulations contribute to the well-being of its inhabitants. So recognizing the erosion which the term welfare state has undergone in recent decades, a process of, let me say, misrepresentation and emptying of meaning that made it, the term welfare state, almost unpresentable today, mostly in the Western countries. The assumption is that trying to establish a new connection of meaning, this term could be still a useful operative concept. Useful because capable of illumining the settling phenomena by reflecting mainly on collective well-being rather than on individual well-being, already much studied entity in our individualistic society. And so paying attention to welfare state, to the concept of welfare in an operative way, means pay attention to public spaces more than private buildings, if we look at welfare from a spatial point of view. So this is like an example of what I mean when I speak about welfare spaces in a city, the social infrastructure I have in my mind. And the object of my reflection, of the reflection of my researches of the last 10, 15 years, concerns welfare spaces that were constructed during the 20th and at the beginning of the 21st century in Europe as spaces for collective life activities, as a social infrastructure. So to work on this topic with the broader perspective of Europe, to me, is urgent for at least three main reasons. Firstly, because the widespread presence of public facilities like schools, hospitals, parks, sport fields, libraries, even if not always correctly located or built, in my view, constitute one of the key characteristics of the contemporary European and Western city, as one of its main factors of identity. And secondly, because welfare space is one of the arenas in which citizens can determine their very identity and form a spirit of citizenship, as in this space, a park. And this is even more important today as Europe prepares itself in receiving the many immigrants who arrive in hopes of obtaining not only home and employment, but also the new rights that come with citizenship. And thirdly, the third reason why it is important to work on the topic of welfare space, because to investigate a welfare space means to work on the themes of urbanity or a mixity through the construction of urban fabrics that are livable, comfortable, healthy, and safe. So to study welfare space leads to deal with the difficulty of living in many parts of cities and territories constructed after World War II, with the hostility that many parts of the city have in relation to their inhabitants, especially young, elderly, or physically impaired. For instance, I love to show this picture that represent a couple of Chinese immigrants that chosen to take the wedding picture during the wedding day in a park in the mainland of Venice, instead of taking picture in the old city center of Venice that is almost world known. It's a very famous place. So the role that welfare space, the role of this park in their everyday life, that's what I call, and the reason why I'm interested in this kind of space. So the misery of the urban spaces, as well as of the landscape that we usually find in our cities, their resistance to the normal unfolding of our daily lives, has gradually weakened the right to the city, the right to live in a comfortable, healthy, and safe city, establishing an important link between spatial misery and injustice. Since it's not a question of great misery, of a radical material poverty, but of misery of positioning, as Pierre Bourdieu said, that is the set of difficulties and frustrations one clashes with daily while using the city. So that the injustice of the spaces we live in grows ever greater. But the definition of spatial injustice comprises different aspects. Unjust in mobility, with the prevalence almost monopoly of the car, capable of establishing generational gaps as well as economic ones, but also the pulverization of criticalities, with the territorial and social system of family networks that seems to absorb difficulties, inequalities, poverty, and crisis, but actually distributes and hides them inside the home, inside the family. So, for instance, a children's daycare or a nursery that is too far from home, or the absence of a nearby park close to the school, or the discontinuity of a sidewalk or a bicycle path. Well, these are just two examples of a very long list of characters that affect the livability of our cities. And all these aspects may be considered a list in which we can begin to specify what makes for laborious living in our territory, what affect the quality of life, starting from a spatial point of view. All these things have led me to reflect on the urban and social infrastructure, on what does not create individual wealth directly, but contributes to the collective well-being. Well, such kind of difficulties have led increasing number of people to find individual solution to the issue, to search for comfort inside their own home or abandon urban space. Well, in Western countries and in Venice too, the transfer toward suburban areas, toward what we call città diffusa, diffused city, also led to the theme of the search for individual comfort. Well, this is what città diffusa is in the Veneto region, in the Venice metropolitan area. The Veneto region has been studied starting from the hypothesis, so this region, this kind of territory, what we call città diffusa, has been studied starting from the hypothesis that the phenomenon of sprawl have concerned not only residential and industrial fabric, as you can see in these pictures, but also the production of collective services and equipment of welfare spaces. Also, welfare spaces has been sprawled all around in this territory. So over time, the policies of infrastructure, the policies of welfare space, the investment in social and cultural capital gave rise to a plurality of spatial organization. So in this territory, very sprawled, where you probably recognize here Venice and the metropolitan area. So this is the territory that I'm reflecting on. In this territory, also the social infrastructure, what I call welfare spaces, have been sprawled all around. All the black dot that you see in this map, in which I hope you recognize, you still recognize Venice. All these black dots represents schools, libraries, sport facilities, hospitals, libraries, the complex set of spaces and facilities that I call welfare spaces. So it seems possible to affirm that the distribution of services and facilities has been driven by a goal. A school, a kindergarten, and a sport field for each bell tower. So every little settlement, every little village has had its own kindergarten, its own school, its own sport facilities, and so on. So as you can see in this map, this is a very small municipality in the outskirts of Venice, and in each very little village you can see there is an elementary school, a situation of welfare spaces. This is the same map. You can still recognize Venice in the eastern part of this map, and the red spots are schools this map represented all the schools at the different levels. So the smaller one are the elementary schools, and the larger one, so it's the influence of the school are represented the high school. But not only welfare spaces are sprawled around the region, also, as I said before, industrial areas. This is a map that represents all the industrial areas in the same region. In black, you recognize Venice. So it's a sprawl of very small industrial areas like this one. And what we recognize is that researching some productive areas, we have seen how a network of facilities and social practices are changing this area profoundly. So the workspaces, the production areas, after a period of intense expansion and after the formation of numerous monofunctional enclaves, in recent years, thanks to the internal and external accessibility and to their ample endowment with car parks, are providing to be flexible fabrics into which an increasing number of services and facilities are being inserted. And as you can see in this map, beyond the spaces for production, for industrial production, we are now started seeing spaces for social interaction, for collective activities, a sort of a network of welfare spaces. So, as of course, there are workspaces, but beyond the workspaces, we can recognize, for instance, a nursery or a gym, or again, spaces for village festivals, or places for the circus, and again, places for collective eating, for swimming pools, playing fields, bicycle paths, collective canteens, public parks, and playground. So all these places are not just becoming something else, but we believe are posing new questions relating precisely to the issue we are addressing. So, the point is that in this territory, also in the spaces for production that has been monofunctional places up to 10, 15, 20 years ago, now we are appreciating the presence of this social infrastructure. So spaces for the collective well-being, not only for the individual well-being. But also the natural spaces are becoming space for social interaction. Again, you can see here in this map Venice with all the natural areas around in this territory. A recent rediscovery by the local populations of environmental heritage recovered through spontaneous and informal practices that give a social meaning to marginal spaces or to protected area. Collective spaces often created thanks to a simple change in the legal status of places which are already natural. I mean, river, disused quarries, marginal mountain areas, rather than by their being planned from scratch. And often the quality of these spaces lies precisely in their vagueness. A person goes to one of these spaces rather than to a designed park precisely because the former allow more freedom and diversified uses. I mean, people can use the river, the dikes along the river, or the forest in the mountains, or the lagoon around Venice, as a park, even if these spaces are not parks, properly defined, also legally defined as parks. So using the idea of freedom proposed by Isaiah Berlin, we could interpret these spaces as free from, these spaces are free from borders, from furniture, from facilities, but within which we can feel free to do, interpret the space, free to be and to do whatever we want. So we recognize not only the emergence of new requests for collective spaces, but also the pursuit of what constitutes a common good, an identity element around which to define new forms of active citizenship. In fact, it's often from these spaces and their related practices that committees and associations and groups of citizens interested in defending and enhancing them come to life, becoming managing entities responsible for public spaces. So taken together, these spaces and practices, which are inextricably linked, constitute a sort of new layer of welfare spaces. And people are using the riverbanks, but also riverbanks that become cycle paths or disused quarries, as you can see here, that are transformed in spaces for natural purposes, but also that becomes public parks, become spaces where people can spend their free time, or again agrarian roads that are used for several activities like Nordic walking. So all these collective activities, in fact, took advantage of existing natural spaces, making them accessible through pedestrian and cycle paths. And these new facilities find their foundation in a new cultural attitude that interprets the territory at the same time as an ecological good, a natural capital, and a collective place. A space that keep together ecological and environmental functions with the collective uses. An urban and social infrastructure produced by the public, but which are nourished by the collectivity. They are top-down products, I mean they are the products of policies, but nourished by bottom-up processes, nourished by active citizenship. So observing these spaces, the natural layer, but also the previous one that I've shown, the new collective spaces inside industrial areas. Also, observing all these spaces, we can think that it is also from here that we can start a conscious public policy interested in reducing form of economic, social, and spatial injustice. And it's starting from this point that we can ask ourselves how welfare spaces built during more than half a century, built during the very important decades of modernization of our countries, may be considered today as the starting point for a great transformation of this region. So what I propose with this picture is a scenario. I mean, in red, all the red dots that you see represented in this map are welfare spaces inside the villages, in the industrial area, in the natural area, that are connected thanks to a new network of pedestrian and cycle paths. And the scenario that I suggest, I mean a project for the future. I call this project Veneto 2030, accessible and equipped. And it's a simple and apparently banal idea that each inhabitant should be able to reach on foot, by bicycle, or by public transport in a reasonable time, I mean 15 minutes walking or cycling. Primary and secondary schools, playgrounds, parks, health center, elderly center, sporting areas, libraries, children recreational center, and town halls, and that this may be done safely and in comfortable conditions. You know that in Europe, but not only in Europe, in many cities, during the first lockdown for COVID restriction, the idea of the city of 15 minutes started growing in cities like Paris, but also Bogota or Milan. The idea to, and Barcelona too, the idea to promote a new and very thick network of pedestrian and cycle path in order to let people in 15 minutes to be able to reach all the welfare infrastructure they needed, school, playgrounds, hospitals, and so on, has been a very important idea. So the idea of the city of 15 minutes. Well, before this, at least 5 years ago, I imagined this something similar for the Veneto region. And in this picture, you can see how this idea took form. I mean, the many welfare spaces that you see represented in this map, schools, sports facilities, playgrounds, and so on, are connected by this red network of new pedestrian and cycle paths in order to to keep together and to make this network has a new social infrastructure. This is a very specific example. It's a neighborhood, a small neighborhood in the outskirts of Venice. In red, you can see the network of schools along a main road. And what we suggested was to try to connect the schools and to let the school be accessible mostly by pedestrian and cycle paths in order to improve the possibility to go to school by the students alone in a safe way, and at the same time reducing the car traffic and reducing pollution and so on. In this neighborhood, the large presence of schools located near the main route that passes through has been redesigned while trying to achieve various goals. The first one is to make the pedestrian and bicycle access to the school easier and safer. And this has led, for example, to changing the school entrance, which is often orientated toward the driveway and the parking lot. And with these red small buildings, we have tried to reverse the entrance toward the pedestrian axis. As you can see on the bottom of this picture with these new entrances. And for the same reason, shelters that we suggested were used to connect the entrance gate to the courtyard of the school, where the bicycle shelters and parents' waiting space were also placed with the entrance to the building. And the second objective is to strengthen the main route of the city as a collective space, holding together and giving special coherence to the set of paths to access the schools and the other collective facilities, the public transport, transit stops, and the pedestrian and bicycle path, as you can see in this picture. So, going toward the conclusion, on this very last part, I want to present some reflection that, of course, comes out from my research on welfare spaces, comes out from the design, research by design, on the territory of the metropolitan area of Venice. So I know quite well that, in fact, I'm suggesting the reflection of welfare. I'm reworking an older discussion and maybe only renewing claims on the Lefebvre right to the city. But I feel that today this has become necessary. On one hand, to investigate the relationship between welfare policies and the city, intended as a structure of impersonal relations, is an issue of very great social relevance that cannot sufficiently or easily be exhausted. And on the other hand, if it's true that the worst illness that afflicts welfare today is its loss of legitimacy due to the legitimization of its visionary core, as Tony Judd said, it may be of use to investigate and explore what tools and which projects we can imagine in order to improve the logistic essentiality and the sustainable speciality of our cities, the urban and social infrastructure that enables to reduce disparity and not differences among the citizens, while helping in governing conflict and contributing to the positive development of civil life. When I began this reflection, more or less 20 years ago, it seems the time had expired. Welfare is over, and it makes no sense to do research on something that no longer exists, said several friends and colleagues with a smile on their face. It's true that for a long time we have seen a continued reduction of welfare policies, and that we are in a state socialism for the rich and neoliberalism for the poor, as Ulrich Beck said. Precisely in the face of this apparent outmodedness, this contradictory signal, and the relevance and oblivion of welfare policies and the spaces produced by them, it seems to me useful to work on these themes, to start my research. So even if the many of my colleagues, the many of the scientists considered the topic out of mode. So to me, the main important aspect to go back to welfare was related to the necessity to investigate the strategies of collective well-being carried out by people in daily practices, the many forms of peaceful coexistence that find in public space and welfare spaces a fundamental support, observing the practices of sociality that take place here, going beyond the exaltation of super places or self-segregation strategies that abound in much recent literature. And again, also to review the close relationship that modern urban planning has maintained with the policies of a welfare state. And today, when urban planning, on the one hand, is being questioned by the myth of the inviolability of the free market, while on the other is being loaded, with new expectation related to processes of social rearticulation and the risks of globalization and environmental issues. And finally, to come out of a reductively monetary vision of welfare, returning to a more complex vision of the policies to which it can refer with all their symbolic and political ideological weight, and reaffirm a broader view as an instrument for cohesion and for social sharing. So, recalling also that welfare space as a socio-urban infrastructure is important to help the last, but also to involve the first. I mean, welfare spaces are instrument of social cohesion in order to bring everyone to participate in the same spaces and with the same equipment, building citizenship. And as an example, we can think that the public school must be of good quality, not only to give the opportunity to study to those who cannot afford anything else, but also to avoid those who can afford something more from isolating themselves in private schools. And I think that this is a very important aspect. Welfare space as an instrument of cohesion from which pragmatically to rebuild a citizens' pact between the social strata, between classes and between populations, based not only and not mainly on the intermittent sharing of some general principles, as much as on daily coexistence. I think that reflect on welfare spaces push us to reflect on the necessity of a pact created through the sharing of spaces and practices. In fact, we are together constituting a people because every day we take the same bus, we bring our children to the same school, we bump into each other in the waiting room of the doctor office, we recognize each other at the public park, and etc. So a pact that doesn't need to be defined a priori and on the basis of exclusion and differences, us and them, but which is built on strengthening and almost implicitly, day after day, with the need for common shareable spaces and practices. So ultimately, and I'm really going toward the conclusion, if the term welfare state today may appear worn out, to the point of being almost unusable, to me it continues to seem rich in meaning and evocative. If nothing else, when recalling that it became current in the 40s, when the Archbishop of York in Great Britain began to use it to emphasize the contrast between the welfare state, so a social contract on which democracy in Great Britain was based, and what was called welfare state, a social contract on which the Nazi dictatorship in Germany was based. So welfare is a social contract, however imperfect and always precarious, but in which the state undertakes to ensure the well-being of its citizens, rather than a social contract based on the power and fear of a state of war. Once again, the focus is on cities, on their network of welfare spaces as instrument of coexistence. Places that, by forcing people to share their life experience with others, allows them to learn how to live together, as Roland Barthes said. So keeping in mind that welfare spaces as well as urban environments are places for the practice of democracy, places where what brings people together is a goal, an end, an idea of the future, rather than something that we inherit from the past. So thanks to the exploration on the Città Diffusa, on the metropolitan area of Venice, I recognize how different requests, a complex set of questions about the quality of living are today, closely linked to the daily, ordinary dimension of practices, urging urban planning to adjust its form of intervention by pursuing a concrete idea of a just city rather than a refounding of its disciplinary code. Said differently, urban planning and the project regarding urban space today should focus more intensely on that set of characteristics of cities that in such a way can guarantee social equality, greater collective well-being, paying attention to the bodily dimension of spaces, to the concrete possibilities for persons to lead a life characterized by healthy, safety, and comfort. It is in this sense that, in my opinion, the new possible welfare policies are giving rise to new types of requests for urban planning. It is in this sense that welfare policies interrogate urban planning, posing several questions. So that's my conclusion, and I hope that I have been able to explain my thinking and my reflection of welfare spaces, and that it can help the general discussion and the general reflection on the quality of life. So thank you very much for your invitation again.
Thank you very much, Maria, for a very enlightening talk and sharing your views about welfare spaces. And certainly, I've learned quite a bit from your talk. And I like the way that you twist your words in, especially to involve the last and to what was the thing again? To incorporate the first, and some of the words that you use, very enticing actually. And we've got a few minutes for Q&A session. Before I open to the floor, just curious about the welfare space. Is it specifically, the issue specifically for Venice municipality, or it's actually across Italy? Secondly, are the issues similar to other European countries?
Well, my reflection has been based, the field of my experience, of my researches has been the Veneto region, so the area around the municipality of Venice. But in many other regions, Italian regions, we have the same situation. I mean, the policy, the welfare policies are policies managed at the national level. So in each city, in each territory, in each region, we can find more or less the same situation. So a sprawl of infrastructure, of social infrastructure that feed the city. And also in other European countries. I mean, when I started with the the picture of the European representative receiving the Nobel Peace Prize, it was to say welfare policies, the welfare state is one of the main policy of the European Union. And so we can find in all the European countries, in different way maybe, but more or less in the same way, this kind of welfare spaces.
Right. You also mentioned.
Of course, there are very important differences. I mean, the northern part of Europe, in Scandinavian countries, the situation is different from the Central Europe and from the Mediterranean. In the Mediterranean cities, the quality and also the quantity of spaces, of collective spaces are a little smaller. I mean, it's reduced. So,
yeah, you did mention in your opening that it is quite specific for the welfare spaces for the European countries. At the same time, you do collaborate with Shanghai in China. How do you is it on the same issue or is it on a different issue?
Well, my experience in Shanghai is quite interesting. I mean, it's relevant to remember that Shanghai, to me, is one of the most European Chinese country. I mean, Shanghai has a very important tradition in as a European city with the French concession, the English concession. So the city center has some feature that remember a Western city. But what is important, that also in the other part of the city, what we found with our research in collaboration also with Caterina Villani, that was my student at that time, and she collaborated in the research we did in Shanghai. We found that the presence of welfare spaces were almost relevant. There are some differences, but in fact, the role of the neighborhood, the presence of the importance of the network of welfare spaces for the daily life was really very important. And we tried to suggest the 15 minutes city, so the network of pedestrian and cycle path as an important network in order to allow citizens to be free to join the welfare spaces without using the car. It's not easy, but I mean, the issue of the healthy city is rising a lot in China, and the work we did together with Wang Lan from Tongji University is really very important.
Right, thank you. Now, we still got a few more minutes. I would like to open up to the floor for anyone who would like to ask Professor Tosi. Any raise of hands? Yep, Alia, are you in? Alia is from Cairo, yeah.
Yes, I want to thank Professor Maria for the very interesting talk. And actually, welfare space as an instrument of social cohesion is an important issue to really take care of. I wanted to ask you, are these ideas accepted and implemented by the decision makers in your country? I mean, you are making research, but are these research ideas taken and implemented?
Well, in Europe, each country has different laws and different rules in order to manage welfare spaces. And in Italy, we have a specific law that is under revision. And we tried, me together with some other colleagues, we tried to discuss with the ministry in order to improve the law and let this law to be more open to the contemporary needs of the society. So we are trying to discuss, and there is, then it depends on the political party. Yes. But anyway, we are trying to discuss both at the national level, but also at the regional and at the local level. So it's easier to discuss with the local level. They are open. For instance, in the municipality of Venice, they are working quite a lot. For instance, on the improvement of school accessibility. So they did a great work in order to improve the possibility to go to school by bicycle, also for children. So improving a network of a cycle path continuous for this purpose. So we are trying. It's not easy because, as I said, welfare is something that is seen as well.
Yes. Yes, you are right, because we have a problem here in Cairo, in Heliopolis. It's a suburb of Cairo, and it used to be a beautiful place, very well planned for citizens. And now they are taking off the metro, the tramway, they're taking off all the greenery, and they are making highways. So it is completely against the welfare space. And that's what we are against it. But do you have voluntary NGOs who help you as a researcher in putting the ideas high to the, I don't know?
Yes, but let me say that the COVID situation put it on the floor the necessity to go back and improve the walkability and cyclability of the city.
Did you get my WhatsApp or not? Huh?
What happened?
No, thank you. Thank you very much, Professor.
Thank you.
Thanks, Prof. Alia. How are you keeping in Cairo? Is it still locked down?
Not half lockdown, not completely locked down. People go out, but they put masks and they try to, but it's half, not completely locked down. Thank
you.
Okay.
Thank you. Right. Any other from the floor who would like to ask questions? You can still spare a few minutes. Any raise of hands?
Hi, Professor Yusuf. If
hi.
No one wants to overstep me and ask other questions, I just wanted to say hi and raise just some topics that may be connected.
Oh. Hello, Katerina. Where are you? Where are you from? Where are you calling from?
Right now, I'm in Hong Kong. In my, let's say, in the office that adopted me. So maybe you can see someone passing by, but hopefully it's not so disturbing.
Right, nice to see you. Yeah.
So nice to see you, Professor Yusuf.
Nice to see you, Katerina.
And Professor Tosi. I just wanted to just maybe raise some topic that relates that tries to relate the space, public space in Europe with the challenges that public space in Asia is facing. So I just wanted to ask you if you had some thoughts or just some ideas related to the increasing private private power and private expansion in public space. That, of course, I think it is very visible in Asia with the rise of PPP, public-private spaces, that of course are not in the poorest neighborhoods and are more and more promoted by policymakers. So as we are seeing in Asia a continuous increase of these spaces, what are your thoughts about them?
Yeah, let me say that also in Italy and in Europe, there is a movement that is pushing toward, let me say, a third possibility among private and public. That is what we call common goods. That is something that stays in the middle, that is not private and it's not public. It's something that raised from the ground, let me say, with the power of active citizenship. And thanks to this movement, a lot of private buildings abandoned or disused are under transformations, and slowly there is an increasing number of common goods that is offered to the population as collective spaces. So this is, to one hand, something that is happening here in Europe. And I didn't see very much in Asia, in China, and where private collective spaces are raising up so much. So if there is something new in Europe that we can imagine to disseminate and try to encourage other countries to go on the same, to move on the same perspective, is this third possibility between public and private. And I think that it's really very important, because it's also, these spaces are spaces in which people, that people take care of. And it's really very important, because the possibility for people to take care of a space, it's also a way to make the space livable, to make the space not abandoned, marginal. So I don't know if I answered to your questions.
Yes, yes. Sure. Definitely. I cannot hear.
Yusuf, your microphone is.
Yes, Katerina,
Okay.
is that okay? Is that okay with you?
Yes, sure, sure.
Right. Okay. Thanks. I think Nora Shikin, you raise your hands. You raise your hand, Nora Shikin. No. Oh, I thought you raised your hand. Well, probably one last question. Anyone? One last question? Nope.
Hi, Prof. Nick here.
Okay, Nick. Right.
Hi. Okay. Hi. Prof. Maria, Nick Mastura from Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. Okay. Okay. Actually, I understand here about you say many times regarding the play structure about playground area. So in that scenario, is that any issue that pertaining to the importance of preserving actually for the region like Chita V Fuza that you mentioned earlier, and also that any additional points that you would like to add pertaining to identify why the play structure and the playground that you mentioned for 2 slides, I mean, meaning if I'm not mistaken, very important because that one is part of my specialty in here in Malaysia. So is it part of what we call that human activities? So I got, is that the characters for the welfare, your title is welfare context, right? Prof. Maria?
Yeah, sorry, but I didn't catch your question. Could you repeat?
I'll give you one simple question. The issues that pertaining the importance of in preserving the welfare itself, is it because of the play structure, the playground, or the human activities, the structure or the human activities?
Well, the idea is to starting from not only playground, but all the public facilities. I mean, from schools, playground, sports facilities, parks, and so on, to connect them, to improve them, of course, but also to connect them, to let human activities being developed in a collective way. So in my perception, in my reflection, welfare spaces is like the ground where human activities can be developed.
Meaning that the effort to educate local people, the local people itself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Prof. Yusuf.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Yes.
for your question.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Right. We are exceeding the time limit for your talk, Maria. And again, I would like to thank you very much for your time. Yeah, for the extended time, 1 week from the schedule. I'm very sorry about that. Yeah. Okay. I'll keep in touch with you after this post conference session. A round of applause for Professor Maria Tosi.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation.
Right. Yeah, by the way, for those who would like to extend their questions, you can email to Maria. The email address is actually inside the keynote speaker booklet. You can. We'll keep in touch with you and hope to see you again in 2022. Correct?
Yes, of course. I hope to see you in Venice.
There's going to be a long wait. Hopefully we can push earlier to January. We'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Right. Okay, thanks again, Maria.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you very much, and
Bye.
Good night for you, perhaps.
Thank you.
Bye.
Right, you can still stay with us because we are going to have a session with the scientific committee, and then for the best paper awards.
Yes, but
there'll be a lot of excitement actually because there are lots of happenings for the award, because one of the things is that if the participant is not around, the prize will be given to another person who is around. So that's the rule. That's the rule for a prize. Okay, Maria, thanks a lot.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
thank you. Bye-bye.
Right. Now we have proceeding with the, sorry about the time. We are running 15 minutes late. Anyway, we have scheduled about an hour for the sharing session with our International Scientific Committee, and we'll see how it goes. I'm not sure how long this discussion will be. And the idea is actually mooted by Professor Farida Ismail. Thank you very much for mooting the idea to have this session. Really appreciate your thoughts and also your commitments into that. At the same time, I managed to rope in a few ISC as the panelists for today's web sharing session. Special thanks to Prof. Ranjit from Bahrain. You're always with us, Prof. Ranjit. Right, who else? If I can share, Prof. Masran, thank you very much. I see Dr. Mariam and Prof. Mazni, and quite a number. I'm just looking at the name. Sorry if I didn't mention your name here. I thought I saw Supaksha from Bangkok, and Saripa, and quite a number. Putri Mayang, and sorry if I missed your name. I'm just going through it very quickly here. And for a start, we'll let Prof. Farida start the ball rolling, and the other IC member can chip in. Now, basically, this session is very useful for participants, especially first-timers presenting at this conference. Normally, our conference is a mix of first-timer and hardcore followers, and also some mid in between. So we've got different types of participants, and I hope this web sharing session would be beneficial, especially for the younger writers, and also for the ISC members, the junior ISC members. Probably you might be able to learn a thing or two for your next task, which is for the Kota Baru in June, which is just about 3 months from now. Anyway, Prof. Farida, all yours.
Okay, thank you, Prof. And congratulations for having this platform. First and foremost, I think I would like to start off generally how to write a good paper. Is the structure of the paper. We start off with the structure of the paper. So to start off, it's best that you follow the typical heading of a typical paper, which means to say that for a paper, you have an abstract, and you have the introduction, you have the literature review, research methodology, and you have the findings and discussion, and last but not the least is the conclusion. Not only to have this structure, but also to understand what is the purpose of each of this heading. Maybe to start off, what does or what encompasses a good abstract, which comprise of the problem statement, the aims, objective, research methodology, and also the outcome, the main findings, and the way forward. Go beyond that is the introduction, and it will goes on as it is. So what I find that one of the weakness that or misunderstanding that happened is that people was thinking that abstract, no doubt, is part of the paper, but it should not be, meaning to say that it can be detached. It should not be treated, meaning to say that what you have written in the abstract can be a standalone by itself. That means if it is to be detached out of the paper, it is self-sufficient. That means it can read by its own. And in other words, when you write an abstract, because I see that certain papers, when they assume that the abstract, they have written the objective, and in the text, they didn't put in the objective. That is what I meant, that the abstract no doubt is part of the paper, but it should be treated as a separate, or it can be detached out of the paper, and it should be sufficient enough. The info should be sufficient enough to make it to stand alone without the main body of the paper. I think I start with that first before I go into detail for each of the to understand what should be written in the introduction, what is the purpose of having the literature review heading, what is the purpose of having the research methodology, and so on. If you were to understand the purpose for each of these heading, it will keep you on track of what will be the content should be. And there should be no repeating, and and the flow is all there. So I think that is for a start, Prof.
Thank you very much for starting off the session. We see our Dean, Prof. Jamal, is also here. Thank you very much, Dean, for attending. I'd like to open up. Right. I'd like to open up to any of the AIC panelists to respond to Prof. Farida. Anyone? Saripah?
Yes, Prof. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, I think what Prof. Farida said is very true. I really agree with what Prof. Farida said just now. And the first thing that I would like to say here is consistency. That is another issue. Apart from what Prof. Farida has said just now, meaning that the writer should know what should be written in the introduction, literature review, methodology, and so on. Apart from that, the authors should be concerned about consistency, meaning that they should be writing about the same thing throughout the paper. Because I found some papers, in the introduction, they talk about something else. In literature review, they talk about another thing. And methodology also is talking about methodology for another research. You know, it is so confusing in the end. So I feel consistency is something which is very important for the authors to take note of. Okay, and also maybe apart from that is cohesiveness from from the introduction to literature review to methodology to findings. Okay. Discussions and conclusion, it should be, related to one another, not jumping here and there. So yeah, maybe that is what I think so far. Okay.
Right, I do agree, because the abstract is a very important piece. Actually, it's not just a condensed statement, but it's actually vital in understanding the whole paper, and that's why we have actually provided guidelines for authors to follow what are the things that should be in the abstract. And surprisingly, in fact, the assessment sheet was given to all the authors, yeah, and some with the marks, with the weightage and so on. And just curious why, they just, be ignorant of the things. If they just follow accordingly, I think they should be okay. Prof. Ranjit, I'd like to respond to that.
Well,
on the abstracts.
Thank you very much for the observations made so far, and also for the invitation for me. I mean, I want to also add to that point that Professor Saripah made with regard to the consistency across the paper of referring to the same thing. I think one of the critical issues in that light is the issue of conclusions. What happens often that I find in many papers is that conclusion is not derived from the data and the discussions. And there is a tendency when it comes to the conclusions to write things from your own imagination. and not necessarily related to the findings. That is a real serious problem, because you cannot just write things like a newspaper in a research paper, although what you are saying might be true, unless what is being concluded has been established by the findings itself. Please don't write things other than that, and try and concise them, meaning list what the exact conclusions are, and should be precisely connected to the findings, as well as should be connected to the first thing that you started with, which is the issue. Any research starts with an issue that you want to be investigating, and the findings and the conclusion must be related to that issue, and that issue only. There is another thing also in that connection, which I want to draw attention to, which is the fact that often we find conclusions being made which are obvious. I mean, there are a lot of things that are common sense and that we know, and people all know these things. And then to construct a piece of research, a complex piece of research, and come to a conclusion that is already known, it doesn't really make sense. Like, for example, to give you an example, we found often people looking at the greenery and vegetation and saying, well, having greenery is helpful. Or people like parks to go to, and you can construct a piece of research to establish that fact. But then there is no point, because it's already known. And one of the problems that we have, particularly with regard to most of this research, is that they cannot be utilized unless the findings are new and the conclusions are new and brings us new insights. So I fully agree with the point that was being made, that the links must be made across the board, and the conclusions must be, at the end of the day, related to the issue that you started with. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Ranjit. Any other ISC would like to interject or make some remarks? Okay, Prof. Farida, you would like to continue with?
Okay, I just like to continue on the. So as I mentioned earlier, that you have the extract. If you follow closely on the guideline given, I think you don't miss anything. And I do concur what has been said just now about the consistency. So it's very important that what you start, and that is the area that you should be finishing. Writing a piece of paper is something different from a thesis. So meaning to say that you don't need to create a heading where you have subheading, too many subheading. For example, what is the aim? What is the objective? So you don't need to put that into a heading. So meaning to so it's very different from writing a thesis, where a thesis you have to expand, but in the piece of paper or a research paper is a consolidate. You have to consolidate, meaning to say in the introduction, you make an introduction, the problem statement is there, the aim and objective should be under that heading, should be concise and put under that heading. Then goes to the literature review. So I find that some of the weakness that I found, they have the literature review, no doubt, but when they put up the discussion, they plug from the air another literature review. So it's scattered all over. The purpose of having the literature review is to act as a foundation. It should act as a foundation upon which your research should be tested, or it is where it acts as a foundation whereby as a fundamental in which your questionnaire or semi-structured interview will be developed and so on, apart from the other purpose. Meaning to say that when you are in the discussion, you should plug in your literature review, what you have declared. It should not be something else. So I find that you have a literature review, and literature review is very brief. And in the discussion part, you take something else. That means they put in the something else which is not being declared under the literature review heading. So it's scattered all over. So if you know the purpose of this literature review section, the purpose is to setting the scene to act as a foundation upon which your research will be tested to the respondent, and it is fundamental for which your questionnaire and your semi-structured interview will be developed out of your concise and comprehensive literature review. So it's a good literature review is that it is the ability to highlight the main variables to be measured and to be tested. So that will form a good and strong comprehensive literature review. So what I found the weakness is that, as mentioned, is about consistency, yeah, a sort of, whereby you have something else, but in your discussion, you put in another literature review, which is not being declared under the literature review heading. And you mess out, this leads to the messing out where the development of the questionnaire is not being developed based on a strong basis of literature review. So it's all scattered all over. So if you have a strong literature review, it should be able to guide or to highlight the main variables to be measured, and that will help to develop what need to be tested and what need to be reviewed in your questionnaire or whatsoever. So that part on the literature review and the introduction part. So I give it to the floor.
Yeah, like I say, in the assessment sheet, we have actually put the weightage for literature review about 20% actually, which is quite high, 20 to 25%. And, you know, the authors should heed to the guide. Too bad says the article, the papers that they are to write, it should be guided by the manner that we are going to assess. Okay, so please look into what you will be assessed, you know, and put lots of thoughts into it. Yeah, it's not difficult to score. Yeah, the answers are there. You know, the guide is there. So just follow accordingly, right? Anyone else want to interject with this on literature review?
Rob?
Yep, carry on.
I would like to chip in something on literature review. Okay, actually there are so many authors who do not have, you know, recent literature reviews. So majority of the literatures that they give are, you know, so outdated already. Okay, it is okay if the paper is, you know, about trend or something like that. But then when we talk about behavior, for example, we cannot use outdated literatures. So that is still another weakness, still very, you know, occurring so often in the papers. Okay, Prof. That's it.
Yeah. Right.
Thank you.
Ranjit, yeah.
Yes, I want to actually add 2 points here with regard to literature review. This is a very critical part of any piece of research and any research paper. But often, I think there is a serious misunderstanding about literature review. This misunderstanding comes from the fact that one doesn't understand what's the purpose of the review. As the title itself suggests, it is a review of literature. It's not just mentioning that this person has done that and that person has done that, then the other person has done that. So it's just if you simply list that so-and-so has conducted this research and this and that, it doesn't become a literature review. The word review is very important there. In the literature review, however brief it is, it should be reviewed, and it should be not just reviewed, it should be critically reviewed. That means the person who is writing should critically look at what has been done previously. One of the purposes of doing a literature review is to establish the fact that there is a gap in the knowledge which the person doing the paper or the research is trying to fill. This is one part of it. The other part is to cite the outstanding contributions made by other researchers to the particular issue that you are looking at. and to discover what theoretical ideas have been employed previously and where are the problems in that. So unless the literature review highlights those issues, it doesn't become a literature review. In many of the reviews that I do, I often write there is literature cited, there is literature listed, but there is no review of the literature. This review part is very important because at the end of the review of the literature, one should construct a theoretical basis for whatever you are going to do. That basis comes from looking at the work that has been done before and looking at them critically, not just listing them. This is one issue. The second issue that I want to also raise here is that there is another misunderstanding with regard to the literature review. There are oftentimes people who list literature review as a methodology. Literature review is not a methodology as far as I understand, although there is a methodology that comes close to literature, that is documentary research. That means you actually look at number of documents that have been published before in order to generate data. That is not a literature review, that's documentary research. And there is a misunderstanding between the documentary research and literature review, and literature review is being often cited as a part of the methodology, which also should be avoided.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to relate the misunderstanding of using literature review as one of the methods. Of course, it depends on the type of study. If you are writing a review, or if your research is something to do with a review of some topic, then it could be part of your methodology. But per se, I don't think so. It should be under methodology because literature review is the heart of the matter of your write-up. Actually, it would relate back to your introduction, yeah, your issues, and also it will also somehow help out with the manner that you're going to do your methodology. And of course, for the discussion, your findings, you have to relate back to what other studies have shown, and you can't do that without a proper critically reviewing the literatures. Okay, right. Anyone would like to add on this on literature review? Yes, Prof.
Prof. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Okay, I just want to comment a little bit on literature review. Of course, everything has been said, and I think everyone has got problem in assessing or reviewing the papers, yeah, especially in the literature review section. One of the things that I found that most of the authors, I mean the papers being written by the authors actually don't use his or her voice. Rather, they use the other people's voice. These are the things. This is quite glaring. Yeah, the way the sentences are being what you call developing structured. So I think it is very important for writers, yeah, or for the researchers, when you write the literature review, use your own voice, meaning that you have to structure at the very beginning before even you start writing the literature review. I think it's just the things that I want to add on, yeah, in this particular discussion. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Prof. Right, Prof. Farida, we like to go on to methodology, or you want to comment on methodology?
Oh, okay. Well, we have a section on the methodology. So I see that no doubt most of the writers, they have this heading, only that in terms of fulfilling what should be written under methodology. So that it will be the question. Some of the weakness is that they don't really describe in detail, especially where I come across where qualitative, especially for qualitative research. So qualitative, you should be more comprehensive in terms of the description, because the validity and the reliability depend on the how, the way you explain things and so on. So in terms of qualitative, well, you have to describe everything in terms of coding system, where you carried out the way that you the authors conducted the semi-structured interview, how long does it take. So that the detailing of it should be well described. Unlike quantitative, you can have the testing to test and so on. But in terms of where qualitative are being used, description plays an important role. I think the thickness of the description, the reach in terms of the coding system, that need to be spelled out, because to address the issues of reliability and issues of consistency in terms of the description. All right.
Right. I'd like to call upon Professor Ricardo from Mexico. Are you still around? He's one of the co-authors actually, but I'd like to hear his
Yes,
comment.
Professor, I'm here.
Yes, thank you very much. Prof. Ricardo, would you like to have some say on this topic?
Sorry, I missed your question.
Right. You're talking about methodology actually. Would you like to say something about
I think, yes, thank you. I think all of the participants have already said the very important information, the most important information. But for me, I think the references are really important, and we have to be we have to improve those references in according to get a better paper and a better research. With those references we explore, we need to improve. We need to make a better research on papers and documents. And for me, is the most important thing of a paper, the references, Professor. I think that.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Prof. Alia, are you still around? No.
Yes, I am.
Right. You have actually reviewed previously, yeah. Your comments, your thoughts on the methodology part.
On methodology, I think from the papers I reviewed, there are many authors who now know how to explain their methodology very clearly, and they really implement it well. There is a big difference, Professor Yusuf, from what I was reading as papers from the very beginning of your start and now. There is a very, very good difference, and I think it's very nice to see that, and to be aware that all the authors have learned. They have learned, whether they are new ones or older ones, writing papers in your journals, they have learned, and there is a very, very great, how do you say, a better standard than before, much better standard. And I think the methodology, many, they do by the word, because I don't know if you send them, the authors, if you send them this reviewing format. Do you send the authors the reviewing format?
Yes, yes.
This is good. That's why they have, that's why it has a very good
we have been doing
on them.
Yeah, we have been doing it since Bob was around actually. In fact, Bob Well, Marans he actually finalized. He took back the ones that we argued in Famagusta, and he brought back to Michigan, and he posted from Michigan the refined version, and we have been using it ever since the Famagusta days. And of course, there were some refinements, and I think it helps a lot in terms of the authors in writing their papers.
Yes, it helps the authors, and it helps the reviewer as well to be fair and to look at every point. This is very good.
Right. Right. Ranjit, any say?
Yeah, I just
On
want to add
methodology,
something here. I just want to add something here. Yeah, I think yes, methodology, like it was said, needs to explain in detail how the research was carried out. And not only that, but if within the methodology, if different techniques have been mentioned, then it is also necessary that the data that came out from those different techniques must be in the data analysis section. I often find, for example, interviews mentioned as a methodology under the methodology, but then there won't be any data coming from interviews listed afterwards. So it is not only necessary that the methods are explained in detail, and then the data that are derived from those methods must be followed by in the next section. This is often a missed aspect.
Right. Okay. Prof. Farida, I'm not sure how you want to structure your session here. Are you heading towards the findings and discussion, or?
Well, I don't know. Anyway, well, we have a heading for the findings and discussion, so which I think every authors do adhere to the guideline given. Only that, as I mentioned earlier, that while I think is for a best presentation is advisable to introduce tables and figures. So sometimes you see that the presentation is when you read something which is not well presented, then you find it all scattered all everywhere. Might as well we introduce tables and figures because in findings it will be very straightforward. And while the discussion part is that you have to link with the literature. That is the linkages that is sometimes missing. So as I mentioned earlier, in the discussion, they have another literature which is not being declared before in the literature. So this making the paper a mess, which is not well structured. I would suggest that anything got to do on literature is parked under literature, and during the discussion is that how you relate the findings to the literature in the context of the research. So as I mentioned earlier, knowing the purpose, the coverage for each of the heading is very important to ensure that nothing is missing and no new things are coming in without being mentioned before, and yet you put it during the discussion. So which I think that makes things not in a good flow. So the you have to synchronize all the way through.
All right, thank you. I see Prof. Guy. Are you around, Prof. Guy?
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Okay. We do not have any proper structure for today's discussion. It's actually just a general feedback from the IIC. Probably in future webinars, we will have proper workshops as a guide to young writers. Actually, so Prof. Guy, your any comments that you like to say here as a reviewer?
For the local papers, I think there has to be clarity in terms of the content of the paper. When I reviewed and compared local papers with that from a collaborative paper, local and overseas, there's a big gap as far as quality is concerned. And the most ones are probably the language part. And I think it is best that you try to send it to a language editor, because when there is inappropriate or incorrect use of a word, then there is a misconstrued meaning to the whole sentence. So I think that's most of my comments, and I see that there are repeated content, the findings and the research that they have done, and this is where ethics comes in, because there is salami slicing, because the reported findings, when you cut them into small pieces, that is actually not ethical publication. But I think if you want to multiply number of papers as per your case after year, that would be suitable. But again, it's not a good idea to do that. So that's my comment so far as a reviewer, the content part.
Right. Thanks, Guy. We are towards the end of this session, actually, because it's just more of like sharing session. And anybody would like to say anything, your last words as advice to especially to the young writers? Ranjit? Yep.
Yeah, I want to pick up on this point about the language. Actually, that is a very serious issue in many papers. There are two kinds of issues with language. One of which is actually very silly mistakes. I do not know how they actually end up at the final submission. To be frank, even the last set of papers that we received, there were references to dissertations. We know that the authors often take the material from dissertation chapters and stuff like that, but once when they come into the papers, those residues of the original writing should not be left. Once someone writes a piece of paper, it should be read 3, 4, 5 times, word to word, to make sure that there are, in the first place, no silly mistakes. Secondly, yes, spelling and grammar is a serious problem that needs to be paid a lot of attention. And if one feels that one is not conversant enough in the language, should get the support of someone who is capable of doing that. I think the way to do this is to, there are a lot of YouTube material which explains how to connect sentences from one to the other and from paragraph to the other paragraph. There should be a movement of the argument flowing from the beginning of the paper to the end of the paper. That flow does not happen accidentally and automatically, and it requires certain connecting words, which are very common in lots of writings. I think it will be advisable to look at the YouTube videos that are available, and also linguistic classes that will explain how these connections can be made between one sentence and another sentence, and one paragraph and another paragraph. That flow is very important for any paper to construct and communicate the idea and the argument. So I will leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ranjit. Actually, about the language, we tried to help out with the Grammarly, because when they submit, they need to score at least 90% of the Grammarly. Now, Grammarly is not perfect, but at least it does refine further the potential papers. And in fact, all of the papers that have been sent to the ISC, they have actually scored at least 90%. Okay, so that helps a bit. And we have tried before using manual reviewers.
Yusuf, sorry, I agree with you, but Grammarly cannot pick up an error like in a paper. If someone says this dissertation discusses that, I mean, Grammarly cannot know whether this is a dissertation or a research paper. It will not pick up issues like that.
I agree, because we did try to have the manual English editors, and they just cannot cope up with us, actually. So we have to rely on the machine. But again, it is not perfect, but at least, it's readable, actually. Right, Saripah, any last words from you?
Okay, Prof. Last words, eh? I think it is about the title of the paper itself. Sometimes, okay, the authors give titles which do not reflect the paper. Okay, I hope in future the authors, you know, would really think about what title should, you know, they put forward to represent the paper. Okay, thank you.
Right, good that you brought this up because it is very important. Now, one thing about title, in terms of redundant words, for example, a study of. A study of is actually redundant, so please do not put in the title, yeah, a study of, because it's redundant. You know, just have semicolon and do your piece. And secondly, it's quite true. The title is very important, and it should reflect your aims. If it doesn't reflect your aims, then something's wrong with the title or something's wrong with your aim. Okay, right. That's my piece. Farida, you want to wrap up? Oh, sorry, hold on. Cik Nora raised her hand. Cik Nora. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, Assalamualaikum. Good evening, everyone. It's good to hear all the ISC's members, reviewers comment, but I'm not talking on the behalf of the reviewers, but I'm talking on behalf of the authors. Me, as one of the author, I'm sending papers quite some time, you know, starting from the last 10 years. But the comment that I always receive from the reviewers were not consistent, you know. If I have two reviewers, one reviewer we give a very good mark that is 4, but the other reviewer give a very bad mark on the 2. So we don't know which one to. My thinking was when I got this two different type of scoring, I just thought that is the consistency of the reviewers is not there, and I think that time when I received this kind of comment, I to my own, you know, to my own inner thinking is that the reviewers also not up to that standard of commenting. So I'm sorry to say that. So thank you very much. So can I have a view from any of you to say on this thing? Thank you very much.
Okay, I have some remarks, but I'd like to open up to anyone who like to touch on the two sides of the coin issue.
Can I say something, Prof?
Guy? Okay, Guy.
Yeah, thank you.
Guy, louder, Guy. Can you speak louder?
Sure.
Right.
Thank you, Cik Noria. What I want to say here as a reviewer who has been around for more than a decade, we have undergone many trainings, and the last one was by Prof. Yusuf himself at the meetings where he emphasized that reviewers must write something in the column. So when you see that, you know, everything is 222, and then with no comments, then I don't want to say anything about it. But as far as me being a reviewer, I will write something because I think the authors want to know what is it that they have to do in order to make sure that their article is up from the original one. It means that there is quality paper coming in.
Right, yeah. I do not deny the levels of among us, the ISC, because we have various levels. And having said that, you'll be surprised. in the best paper award comments, because the top four papers were given to a jury of 10 professors, and you'll be surprised at the verdict. Okay, it's, you know, you'll be surprised. What I'm getting at is actually, being human, we have our own philosophy, we have our own thoughts, we have our own likings for things, and that's why we need more than one reviewer, okay, to be fair, right? And it's quite common to have both sides of the coin, meaning some will give you very high, some would give very low. Of course, those who give you very low without any reasons, it's a bit unfair to the authors. That's why I'll be calling up for another session with all the ISC, yes, just to improve on the quality of reviewing. But to Chenoria, you are not alone actually, because you know, it's quite common in any conference, in any conferences that you go, you will still have the issue of the two sides of the coin. My only advice is that the one that gives you good reviews, you put it in your pocket, but the ones that are negative, you tackle the negative one, because if you tackle the negative ones, you can improve further on your paper. So that is the whole idea of the review, to improve your paper actually, right? Right, so I'm going to have a short coffee break for 5-10 minutes. Anyone who wants to wrap up, or any last words from anyone? We'll just have a short break, 10 minutes break, yeah, before we go for the icing on the cake for the moment.
Okay, thank you very much for the answer. I really appreciate that, and sorry if my comment have distracted someone, but that is from my sincere comment. So thank you very much for all the explanation.
Chenoria, Chenoria, you're actually representing some of the authors actually. They would like to have the same comments. Yeah, so it's quite good that you highlight this again. Okay.
I agree with that. Thank you for telling us that we are not good, because we will improve too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
All of it, maybe my paper is not good. Okay, all right, thank you so much.
The only way to improve is actually to just carry on submitting your papers to our conferences. And we do take care of you guys, because you know, there are many things that we are giving back to the participants. Actually, there are many ways, in many ways. Okay, for example, we are reducing the registration fees. We are giving discounts. You know, we are increasing the best paper awards. There are many things that you know, we are giving back to the participants. Okay, so I like to reserve my comments on the papers for the best paper awards afterwards. Okay, can we have a short break? Yeah, about 10 minutes, and then we'll come back. Yeah. Yeah, Prof. Alia, thank you. A message from Prof. Alia. She enjoyed the keynote speech just now. Okay, can we have a 10 minutes break, and then we'll come back for the best paper award comments, and also the winners. Grand prize of RM 2000 cash, right? So stay on, yeah, 10 minutes. Okay, Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam, Katu.
Right, okay. I will not keep you waiting much longer for this very anxious moment. And there's a lot of drama actually for this best paper award winner, especially for those who do not present face to face. They are disqualified. Okay, that's the rule. Right, so I'll be sharing the sessions with where I've got this based on the calculations. Right, allow me to share my screen. Let's see. Okay, this one. Yeah, Right. Basically, what you are looking at on the screen is actually the marks rank for the 37 papers, including those who have disqualified. Just to show where they are ranked actually. So we've got a cross section of the highest being 11.4, 13.25. Yeah, that's the highest 11.425, and the lowest is down to 5.6. Okay, so that's the level of papers submitted. Yeah, and mind you, this is based on the two reviewers, or two sides of the coin reviewers. Okay, but anyway, that's why we have decided to go back to the moderating the marks with jury. Yeah, especially the top 4 papers. Right. Now, before we go towards the ranking of the paper, I'd like to show you the papers that were disqualified, and it is very sad indeed, because these 3 papers were actually ranked within the top 10. Okay, and they were disqualified because they decided not to present it face to face. Right. So we've got 3 papers out of the running for the best paper award. Oh, by the way, the prizes for the best paper award would depend on the number of papers. As you know, the policy is that we will give the top 10 if we have more than 40 papers. Okay, but since we've got only 37 papers, then we will be giving away only the top 4 papers. Okay, that's as per the policy for the best paper award. Yeah. Nevertheless, we have decided to also give some token for the top 10 papers, although we did not receive more than 40 papers. Okay, so just stay on. Yeah. And the other thing is that, as you know, the rule that the winner must be in the house. Okay, everybody knows the rule. The winner must be in the house. If the winner is not in the house, okay, the next in line will be winning whatever award that's being given. Right. Now we zoom into the top 4. Right, top 4 has been categorized as paper C, paper A, paper B, and paper D. Right. So that's in terms of the ranking based on the marks that has been given. Okay. Now, like I say, out of this 1, 2, 3, 4, out of these papers, yeah, they were sent to the juries. There were 12 juries among the professors in the ISC, yeah, and only 10 returned, yeah, their verdict. And so ABCD is the paper categorized just now, yeah. And according to this ranking, this is purely based on the ISC marking, yeah. First, second, third, fourth is actually entirely based on the ISC marks. So it was categorized, the papers were categorized as such, but after finalizing from the jury, yeah, so the order was as shown here, right? So CBAD, yeah, compared to the CABD, yeah, the ranking. Now, how did we arrive at this final version of the rank of the jury marking? Now, as you can see, the first would be the marks given by the ISC, so we put it as ranking accordingly. So C being the first rank, A second rank, B third rank, and D fourth rank. Right. So we tabulated all the jury's markings arrangement of the ranking. And as an indicator, we sum up, meaning the lowest would be the winner. Okay. Now, it would be a straightaway winner if the those rank are far apart. Okay, but we have a problem with two papers which were so close together, right? 21 and 22, meaning for paper B 21 and paper C 22. So that is just entirely based on the jury, right? Like I say, if the difference is great, then it's quite obvious the outright winner is. But then again, looking at the marks 21 and 22, we need to find other indicators, right? One indicator was that we look at the jury, which gave the ranking number 1 for that particular paper, and we discovered for paper C, right? 6 juries ranked for paper C, while only 4 juries ranked for paper B, right? Another indicator was the public speaking or the oral presentation, the marks that the presenters obtained. Yeah, paper C obtained 8 out of 10, while paper B 7.25. Yeah, we look at another indicator just to confirm the best paper award winner, and we look at the contribution from the authors, and we notice that paper C have an international author, while paper B did not have international authors. So, meaning paper C is has been found to be the overall winner. Yeah. So based on that, so we re-rank. Yeah, we re-rank based on the jury and based on other indicators. Yeah, as compared to that ranked by the IC, right? So are you ready for the award? So the first, the best paper award carries free registration for the next. In fact, for the 4 winners, yeah, it carries free registration for the next conference, plus cash. As mentioned earlier, we are very serious about our hashtag Game Changer 2021, whereby from now we will publish only internationally authored papers. Okay, on our part, we have actually displayed on the web for those who do not have any link with international authors. Yeah, you've got a list from various countries that are willing to be your co-author. However, when you want to link or you want to use the names of the various authors from abroad, it is ethically you have to actually inform for the collaboration. Yeah, it's not etiquette if you are if you just use the name of those listed. Yeah, I think it's just common sense. It's not ethical. Yeah, it's not ethical. So you need to contact them, because their research interests are there, their email address are there, right? So what you need to do is actually just get in touch with those you think are within your research interest, right? And you start collaborating, and maybe this is not the first time that you'll be writing with them. Yeah, it could be the starting point of your future collaboration. So this is what we are aiming for, actually, right? That's why from now on, we insist that only internationally authored papers will be considered for publication. Yeah, and you just need another person. Maximum number of authors, actually four authors maximum. Okay, so one of the author could be an international author. Now, international author does not mean that that particular person that which is an international in terms of citizenship, but residing in for example, in Malaysia, that's not counted, actually. Yeah, what we need is the internationalization, meaning that the authors must be from abroad. Okay, now I know some might find difficult, but like I say, we are helping out by listing, by listing potential co-authors. It's in the conference where you just can browse through and contact them. And to help you out again, that's why we are increasing our best paper award. We have double up. Usually before this, the best paper award is actually the best paper would win 1,000 ringgit. Okay, now we have double up, meaning it's actually now 2,000 for the best paper, and accordingly for the first, second runners up, all are being double up. At the same time, we are giving 30% discount for papers which are internationally authored. From the registration fees listed. We give you 30% discount. If your paper is an internationally authored. However, that is the carrot. But we also got the stick in the sense that if you do not have at least one international authored, you'll be surcharged 30%. Okay, so it's actually all written on the conference web. Okay, now I hope potential winners are still in the house. Okay, so I'm going to announce the first or the best paper. Okay, normally we award from the bottoms up, but then since the rule is that the winner must be here, right? So we have to start from the top and go down, right? Right, the first or the best paper award winner goes to HTE 002 Mazri Saad and your team from the Department of UIA. Yeah, congratulations. Are you around?
Yes, thank you, Prof.
Yeah, okay, congratulations. Well, it was, I think it was a revenge actually, because we miss your paper for the last conference, and you was misquoted to winning the. Again, congratulations again, and again I'd like to remind the winners, please submit your bank account within 1 week for you to receive the prize. Failing which, it will go back to our fund for the next conference. Right, congratulations. Right,
thank you.
One down, and first runners up goes to Shamsul Anwar, Sultan Ibrahim, Faculty of Health Science. Are you around, your team?
Yes, Prof.
Where are you? I cannot see you.
Sham.
Okay, Sham, congratulations. Send our regards to your dean. Your faculty has been winning ever since we started. Probably next conference, Faculty of Health Science is being barred from entering the best paper award winning.
Thank you very much, Prof.
Right, congratulations again. Okay, your prize is actually 1,500 ringgit cash. Right.
Okay.
So 2 down and 2 more to go. The second runners up goes to Intan Liana Shamsuddin.
Yes, Prof.
Right, you are at UTM and you are a PhD candidate. Congratulations.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you, Prof.
Is this your first time, is it?
Yes, this is my first time presenting and writing a paper.
Don't be the first and last,
No, definitely.
Yeah, so you still got 2 more steps to go to getting the best paper right. Anyway, congratulations. Your prize of 1,000 will be into your bank account after we receive your details, right?
Thank you, Prof.
Right. Just as a matter of interest, look at the ranking. This is actually according to the rank is actually according to the ISC ranking. But when it comes to the jury, so that which is second, sorry, that should be third, but it is second, and that should be second is being counted third, and right, the final goes to Shahrul Yani. Now, Shahrul Yani, you are from FSPU, is it?
Yeah, betul. I'm here.
Oh, because I thought the name is familiar. Right, all the winners have won their cash prizes. Right. Again, I'm repeating myself. Yeah, by right, according to the policy, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Full stop for the winners because we did not get more than 40 papers. However, yeah, we wish to give it back to you. Yeah, in the sense that there will be rewards for the top 10. Yeah, starting with top 5. Okay, the token is that you'll be given the abstract fees token of 100 ringgit. Yeah, for the top 10, right? So let's see who will be winning it. Again, the rate is disqualified. Yeah, and the number 5 goes to Nur Azila. Are you around?
Yes, I'm around, Prof.
Okay, Nur Azila. The abstract deadline for Kota Baru is just a few weeks, right? So use up your coupon.
Thank you.
Right, all the prizes are being claimed now. Okay, number 5. Number 6 goes to Nur Hayati Zulkifli. Are you around?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you.
UCSI. I cannot see you. UCSI. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, by the way, another rule is that your marks have to be above 8.5. The winners, yeah, the top 10 must be above 8.5. So you are okay, right? So we've got 3 more.
All right.
3 more winners. For the top 7. Prof. Ridwan Osman from FSPU. Congratulations. Are you around?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm around.
So you've got 2 coupons, yeah? One is for the AicQoL Got Talent you won. Oh, by the way, for those who do not know, at AicQoL in BukitTinggi, we have this contest, yeah? AicQoL Got Talent, and since there were not many contestants, so all those who contributed their voice have won the token of abstract fees waiver of 100 ringgit. Yeah, that reminds me of Tengku. Are you around?
Yes,
Tengku,
Prof.
right.
Yes. Assalamualaikum.
Yeah, I think this is news for you. I think. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. You have won a token of 1 abstract fees.
Thank you, Prof.
Right. Number 7. Okay, we got 2 more. Right. Top 8. Right, Muhammad Ghazali Masuri. I thought I've actually banned him from entering this competition. Where are you?
Can you see me, Ghazali? Janganlah ban saya, bro.
I thought we have banned you from this competition.
Alhamdulillah, supporter ni support.
Anyway, congratulations.
Thank you, bro.
Like I say, I mean, Ghazali is always the regular top 10. Yeah. Anyway, so. Congratulations, although we did not get 40 papers, but as a token of appreciation. Thank you very much. Yeah. Right. Few more weeks for Kota Baru. Yeah. The deadline for the abstracts. Right. We've got 2 more. Top 9. Helmi Hamzah.
Yes, Prof.
All right. From Perak branch, FSP.
Yes, Prof.
Right.
I'm here.
Congratulations. Is this your first time? Is it?
Yeah, first time.
First time, okay, right.
Yeah.
This time you're already in the top 10. Congratulations.
Okay.
Right?
Thank you, Prof. Thank you.
So we'll see you in Kota Baru, yeah?
Inshallah, thank you.
Right, finally, top 10, the last one, goes to Muhammad Fairuz Khalid, again from FSPU. Muhammad Faris has been regular also in the top 10. Are you around, Farid?
I'm here, Prof.
Okay, Putri.
Yes.
Okay. Congratulations again for the abstract token. Yeah. Oh, by the way, for those from FSPU, okay, we have special fund. Yeah, for those who won. Yeah, the top 10. Yeah. So the dean will decide on the amount to be given. Yeah. So hopefully the other deans, the other participants from the other faculties say our salam to your dean and tell him that FSPU Dean is actually giving token prizes to those who won the top 10. Okay. Prof J, are you still around?
Yes, Prof.
Right. Okay, Prof J, I think I leave it to you to decide on the quantum, because initially I thought there were only 2, but I think it's more than 2. Right. So I'll let you to decide on the quantum to be given to the
1K.
Yeah.
1K.
Right. So that's the last, because this is the first time all the winners are in the house. Okay. It's the first time, and for the rest, you'll be receiving the ranking. Yeah, we will send you your ranking, your paper ranking for this particular conference. Okay. Now, before I end up this session, I'd just like to say something about the lessons that we learned in Bukit Tinggi. Yeah, there were lots of lessons that we learned. Although we have been organizing 34 conferences so far, there's always something that we learn when we did something. Yeah, and among the things that we will be having, apart from the hybrid, that will be the norm. Yeah, that will be the norm, both face-to-face and virtual. Apart from that, it actually will be the registration. We will be having pre-registration. Okay, meaning during the eve, during the eve, and hopefully we do not have any long queue for the actual registration in the morning. Yeah, so hopefully we hope as many as possible would be able to do your pre-registration, so that we do not have to rush for the breakfast in the next morning. Yeah, and then the other thing is about on the best paper award winner. We have actually played just a glimpse of one of the breakout chairs session with Professor Babatunde as the breakout chair. Yeah, and one thing I noticed is one of the group, who actually collaborated with the author from India. It really is very interesting in the sense that they have feedbacks, meaning you do not just put the authors' names, but they are also actively participating in the conference. And in fact, they are giving also comments during their breakout presentations. So what I have in mind is actually that would be another criteria for the best paper award winners, meaning if you have collaborators from abroad, and if you have them participating in your breakout presentations, that would carry marks. Supposing if there is a tie for the winners, we will be looking at indicators. Yeah, so I hope you understand what I mean. But if you want to get more clarifications, probably you just can email to me. Yeah, so it's getting late. I know it's getting late, and thank you very much for all. Yeah, from all parts of the world as well. Thank you very much for all the ISC who attended. Yeah, thank you very much for all the participants who have been in the house for the past 2 or 3 hours. Yeah. Okay, so that's it, and inshallah, we will try to improve further our organizing of the conference for the June, which is about 3 months from now. Yeah, in Kota Baru, Kelantan. I wish those from abroad could have actually come and visit Kota Baru, rich in cultural aspects, right? So again, Prof. Ali, are you still around?
Yes, I hope so, if you can travel.
Yeah, we are just longing to see the blue skies. We've been we're just waiting for the time, and probably 2021 will still be the local, but 2022, I think all the conferences will be abroad, and Venice and Marrakesh plus Casablanca is waiting. We're just so eager to just live for that. And probably Bahrain, Ranjit, we could have one in Bahrain in future as well.
Sure. Yeah, that's a possibility.
Yeah, right. Okay. Right, guys. Right. Thank you very much again. And I'd like to pass on to our co-chair, Prof. Masran, who has been closing the conference since our Famagusta days. Prof. Masran, all to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Yusuf. First of all, I would like to extend my congratulations to all who heard everyone. I think everyone actually is a winner. Yeah. And as always, I'm having a tough task actually at the end of every conference.
With great pleasure.
Organized by AMER and ABRA. After the announcement of the awards and end notes from the chairperson, chairman, the Prof. Yusuf, finally I have to appear here to officiate the closing of the conference. But before I utter that final lines as the co-chair of the conference, I wish to offer our sincerest appreciations and thank you to everyone, the participants and the heads, ABRA, AMER, ISC, breakout chairs, and everyone who involved directly or indirectly to make the conference a success. And at the same time, we would like to apologize. I think Prof. Yusuf had mentioned for any shortcoming, especially what we actually experienced in the very recently in Bukittinggi, and the glitches that you might have experienced during the two-day events. Yeah. With that, I would like to. I'm very much pleased to declare that AicQoL 2021 BukitTinggi officially closed. We really hope that to meet you again in our forthcoming conference to be held in Kota Baru, Kelantan, Newcastle of Malaysia, very soon. Let's pray that by then we will be able to meet up again here in Malaysia and in person, face to face. Yeah. To those who are traveling home, we wish you to have a pleasant and safe journey. And inshallah, we meet again. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Masan. Thank you, everybody. For those who like to still have questions, please email to me your query. All right. Thank you very much, all. Ranjit, thank you very much, all.
Okay. See ya.
Thank you.
See ya. Bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Prof.
Good night, Prof. Guy.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, all of the panels.
Thank you, everyone.